Agencies Drinking Beer is brought to you by Proposify, software that helps you deliver beautiful proposals in the cloud and close more deals.
Welcome to the 63rd episode of Agencies Drinking Beer. On today's show, we're talking to Tim Simpson, who owns Social Image Crafting. He's going to be teaching us how he helped grow an online music publication in Tennessee using live events on social media and how agencies can use live video to promote themselves and their clients. How's it going, Kevin?
It's going great. So what I want to hear about, we haven't chatted much about, is you were a judge last night for a hackathon.
My name is Judge. Do you remember, you never saw Arrested Development, did you?
No.
Do you remember Judge Reinhold, the actor?
Oh, yeah.
There was this episode of Arrested Development where he was it was in the show. He was coming out with a show where he actually plays a judge. And they were putting these little audio sound bites in all the magazines. So every time somebody picked open a magazine, you would just hear, "My name is Judge." And it was Judge Reinhold.
Oh.
If anybody, that was a popular show, so most people will remember that. Anyway, yes, I was a judge. I've never been to a hackathon before, but I was last night. Well, I was there to judge when they pitched it. So people were there for, I think, 3 days, and they were building. They were given a theme, which was randomness and what's the word? Like in probability.
Okay.
Probability and randomness was sort of the theme. They had to build something around that. So it was kind of interesting. A lot of people built little games. They were often like computer science students. They were still in school or they just graduated, and so there was a lot of very smart people there writing like algorithms and physics and collision detection and all kinds of stuff. One guy wrote like something to help with like the stock market and suggesting companies based on probability and whatnot. The coolest one that I saw was a guy wrote an Android app. And it had a slider, and one was, basically completely random, and on the opposite end of the slider was like, non-random. And it would dynamically write music. So it would randomly choose a key, B flat or, A or whatever. Mm. It would choose a beat per minute kind of tempo, and it would, what was the final property? It was... I think it was a scale.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like pentatonic scale or whatever. And then it would just use piano sounds, and it would just dynamically create music on the fly. So if you were on, the really random side of it, it wouldn't sound very good, but it was...
Sound like jazz fusion.
Yeah, a little bit. But then, as sort of you slid it up, it would get more orderly, and it would actually sounded like something somebody maybe could have kind of written. I think it would actually be a good idea generator if you're a musician, because it would just kind of create these sounds that don't really sound good on their own, but it might spark some ideas to go like, ooh.
So did he win or she win?
Well, I didn't stay for the end of it. Unfortunately, it ran really overtime, so I had to leave. I filled out the scorecards for like half of them, and there was just too many to...
Well, how many were there?
20.
Wow.
20 that did it.
Just didn't expect that many.
Yeah. Some honestly were pretty bad. Some people just didn't even do what they didn't do it. They just had screenshots.
We did a contest and you got up and pitched. It was a 60-second pitch, and I think we got beat out by a lot of hackathoners.
No, we got beat out by one.
Who don't exist anymore, but anyways.
Yeah. You quit the idea after a week. It was something to do with like traffic tickets or something.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was like it was basically a great idea that's completely cannot be made. Like it was like the equivalent of someone going like, my idea is a time machine. This will take you back to 1955 during the Fish Under the Sea dance where my mother and father met.
A lot sexier than proposal writing.
Yeah. Our idea isn't as sexy in a hackathon per se, but has a little bit more use and can actually be made. Anyway, yeah, it was kind of a cool experience. I'm going to find that music guy because, I mean, that was a really cool idea. And I
That is
asked
a
him if
cool
he
idea.
used any, was there any off-the-shelf libraries he used, or was it all written from scratch? And I think he did use a library that would sort of generate different sounds of instruments, but the actual random aspect of it was, he wrote that in 3 days.
You could probably sell that to Apple, a new add-on to GarageBand.
Yeah. Yeah, idea generator.
Yeah.
Oh, it was kind of neat. Anyway, there you go. Little
Awesome.
story for you.
It's fantastic.
So now we're going to move into our interview where we talk about live video and social media. Very good interview. I enjoyed it with a guy from Tennessee.
Yep.
So let's jump into that now. The interview with Tim Simpson. We're very excited to have Tim Simpson on the podcast today. Tim runs Social Image Crafting, digital marketing agency, and co-founded 901 Music, an online music publication, and he's based out of Jackson, Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you. So maybe just to start off, give the listeners a little bit of your background and kind of how you, why you're doing what you are now and sort of what led up to it.
Sure. I got started doing video and photography when I was, in my teens, mostly video. When I got into college, I had an awesome photography professor who got me started with all of that and really got me interested in photojournalism. From there, during my junior year of college, me and a buddy of mine decided to start 901 Music, which is like he said, an online music publication. And what we do is we do live social media at music events, concerts, festivals, that sort of thing. And we've been doing it for about 2 years now, a little less than 2 years, and we've had quite a bit of success with it. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Very cool. Now, why? I guess so you're doing photography and video, and you're starting a music site, and then sort of, I guess, why are you doing social media and digital marketing consulting now? How did those two kind of dovetail together?
Sure. So when we first started 901 Music, we decided from the outset that we were going to have a very strong social media focus to the publication, and we've kept that. Our social media profiles are actually more dominant than the site itself in terms of what we promote and what we focus on, just because we really like having that, live, immediate flow of information and being able to communicate with our audience. And so it's very much been a social first publication. And so what we realized very quickly is that a lot of the stuff that we did to grow 901 Music, and we've been doing with that brand and with some of the other stuff we've been doing, is very, very applicable to what a lot of small businesses are doing. And so social image crafting kind of naturally grew out of that as a way to address some of the needs that we weren't able to address with 901 Music when working with businesses. So like we do the live social media at music events, but that's not everything that small businesses need, right? So we can partner with them as advertising partners with 901 Music, but when it comes to helping them be successful on their own, they were needing something a little bit more than that. And that's where social image crafting came from as a way to sort of meet that need.
Okay, so I guess it makes sense if we're talking about music, live video, streaming it live, sharing it on social media channels. There's a clear connection there. But for other businesses, I guess, or for agencies even, how could they use live video to grow their brand or enhance their business?
Sure. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, and if you look at what some of the stuff that Facebook has put out, that people like Gary Vaynerchuk are doing, live social media, especially live video like Facebook Live, is you get more results, more engagement, more viewers from doing that sort of thing, doing live video, live photography, that sort of thing, than you do from literally anything else you can do on your channel or on your site or on your social media. And because people love that stuff. We actually found with concerts, and I don't know that this holds true across everything, but at least with concerts, we found that when we posted during the show versus posting right after the show, there's between a 4 and 50 times increase in the amount of engagement we get during the show versus right afterwards. And that what I've seen from me doing it myself, from watching other people, Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary V is amazing at doing this sort of thing. Um, he'll do live video on Facebook, and those videos get a lot of engagement, and they also have a lot of benefits in terms of interacting with your customers, which you guys are really big on, as I've seen, because it allows your customers to interact with you in real time and allows you to interact with more than just one customer at a time, which is really, really great, especially for agencies or people who are running businesses that are very customer service focused. And
So what you're saying is we should start doing agencies drinking beer live on Facebook.
That'd be a great idea. Actually, one thing you can do is I don't know what your studio setup looks like, but you can actually
It's a dank cavern that smells of death.
That doesn't smell that good.
Oh
yeah,
man,
it's not the most aesthetically pleasing. We call it the quiet room. It's this dark little room with like a garage door. Yeah, it's kind of quiet unless there's like somebody outside talking.
Like right now, our sales guy.
Gotcha. Yeah, just throw up some lights and some soundproof padding and stuff, and it'll look great. It's the best way to do it.
The thing I don't understand about live video, I'm glad to have you on because there's a lot of things I don't understand about this. One of them is I don't understand why there would be more engagement when something is live, because a lot of times people want to sort of watch things on their own time, right? Like they're not there. They might be at work, they might be on the can or something. Like how do you make sure people can actually see it or know about it happening so that they're actually there to watch it?
Sure. So there's two things that kind of work into this, and this is more. We're going to talk about Facebook here for a second, just because Facebook is a little odd in the way that it handles this. And a lot of the live video that's being done is being done on Facebook. Periscope is the other really big one.
Didn't Facebook kill them though? Sorry, I don't mean to get off topic.
No, because you still have people doing, Periscope is very tightly integrated with Twitter. And so what people will do is they'll actually stream to both platforms using different software on their computer and that sort of thing.
It's Meerkat that basically got killed, right?
Yeah, Meerkat is still around, and it's not going to hurt to stream to it if you have the option to stream to it. But I wouldn't do it just by itself. I'll put it that way.
I heard that they're actually shutting down the service and switching to a different project or a product.
Really, I didn't know that. I didn't hear about that.
I think it's pretty recent this week or whatever. But anyway, I didn't mean to get you off topic talking about just the different platforms, but you were talking about Facebook being kind of the weird one to talk about.
Yeah, Facebook's a little interesting because Facebook has the way their algorithms work. If you guys have spent any time, using Facebook pages, you know that Facebook's algorithms are not the most business-friendly algorithms if you want to not pay for the reach. And so what is really great about live video over basically anything else is that if someone likes your page, they are the way that Facebook's algorithms work, they're far more likely to get a notification or to see your live video than they are to see literally any other post you post. And so you have kind of an algorithmic ranking here. So you got your text, you got your photos next, you got your video, and then you have live video, straight from the platform up at the top. And so when you're live, you have, people can tune in. Obviously, you don't want to just be live for 30 seconds. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get any sort of results from that unless you just have people hanging on your every word. But, you go live for 10 minutes. You use Facebook Live. You can also stream to Periscope and post that on Twitter, that sort of thing. But if you do that, a lot of times Facebook will actually push out notifications to the people who like your page, which is something they don't do for any other type of post. And then on the back end, if people want to go back and watch that on their own time, like you mentioned earlier, it actually saves the video for, so they can go back and watch it. It's just sort of like a video archive. So if it's well produced, you have and you know what you're doing things with high production value, you can actually just basically shoot a video the same way that you would for just a pre-prepared or pre-shot YouTube video, except that it's done live. You can be responsive to user comments, and you can also save that for future use or reuse later down the line. It's really great. It's kind of a win-win all around, as long as you can be prepared for the live aspect of it, you know?
Yeah. Typically, if I'm ever doing live stuff, it's usually a webinar, and it's kind of closed, to a closed group. I used to use Hangouts on Air through Google, but they now switched to that. Now it's just YouTube. There's no Hangouts on Air. So I wish that you could just do a live YouTube stream and just share that across all your networks. But of course, they don't make it that easy to do that, because they want to own your, Facebook wants to host your video. They don't want Google hosting it.
Exactly.
A minute ago, we had a call dropped, and it's edited out. But this actually brings up a good point, and I know you were going to mention something else, but in terms of live video, that is one of the things about it, of course, is that it's live, so you can't edit, and all the mistakes are there. Do you think that is a good thing, and do you think that helps with engagement?
It's a good and a bad thing. It just depends on how prepared you are. Some people are able to really talk off the cuff. If you've had a lot of people I've worked with have backgrounds in radio and television, just because that's what I've been around my whole life. My dad's actually a meteorologist at a TV station in Memphis. So that's kind of the world that I come from. So a lot of the people that I work with either have a background in broadcasting or are at least somewhat connected to the broadcasting world. And so for a lot
professional
of them,
bullshitters, right?
That's
what we all aspire to be.
Exactly. No, but a lot of those people with that background have the ability to really talk off the cuff really easily. And so the little mistakes that they'll make live, those are actually good things, because it means that it signals to the viewer that, hey, this isn't totally rehearsed. This is not just, hey, we wrote out a script and we're, recording the script and that's it, It kind of lends a bit of authenticity to it. On the flip side, if you have trouble talking in a live situation and you're not able to really get across your point in a clear, concise way, then live video might not be for you.
Yeah, if you make it really awkward, right?
Exactly.
It's true, because when you think about, I remember Conan O'Brien once said something like that, where he was talking about when in his show, they used to always keep the mistakes in, like a skit that, whatever, something didn't work, and, or like somebody yelled out something and Conan went off script and started just doing something crazy with them. Like, people kind of laughed harder at that than they did with the pre-rehearsed stuff, or like SNL. People laugh harder when like one of the comedians breaks character and starts cracking up than when they actually stick to the script,
Carol Burnett used to do that in her show.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s.
Did she?
Absolutely.
Oh, they'd be cracking up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tim Conway and those guys. And that would just make you just bust a gut watching those guys laugh.
Yeah. So you could use it, I suppose, right?
Absolutely. It's all about the authenticity, man.
Yeah. So we were talking earlier before we had some technical issues there about, I think we were talking about, Facebook wanting to own, everybody wants to own the video. So unfortunately, it's harder to kind of stream, record something live and then just stream it across all your channels. Were you going to say something about that, or did you have something else to talk about?
Yeah,
there?
there's, if you want to actually broadcast, and this actually helps if you want to use more professional equipment. So typically when you're dealing with Facebook Live, you're using some sort of webcam, whether it's a webcam on your phone, the webcam on your computer, that sort of thing. And as we all know, if we've ever used a webcam, they're not exactly the best quality in the world when it comes to video. Sometimes they can be okay, depending on what you got, but it just depends on, the situation you're in with the lighting, with the specific webcam you're using, that sort of thing. But if you want to use something that's more professional, say you have a professional broadcast camera, or even the DSLR with a mic, right? You can actually stream that directly into your computer with a cable, and use something like Open Broadcast Studio to stream directly to Facebook. What I would suggest is looking at the Open Broadcasting It's a open broadcasting system, open broadcasting software, OBS. If you Google stream to Facebook Live software, you'll find it. It'll be like the first result. And what it does is it allows you to use streams from your computer, whether it be from your webcam, whether it be from a broadcast camera, DSLR, or whatever. Allows you to stream that video directly to Facebook from your computer instead of having to go through your phone to do it.
Very
Which
cool.
really helps with the professionalism, really helps with getting the video out there in really, really high quality format, which is something that a lot of people who stream to Facebook have issues with.
Yeah. So do you, I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of agencies out there, depending on what type of agencies they run, that are probably using this for their own marketing. I mean, I think agencies are, and they would admit this, are probably the worst when it comes to marketing themselves. Caller's kids thing, right?
Exactly. I was about to say that.
Yeah. So what do you think that agency owners or people who are maybe doing sales and marketing in agencies to promote their agency, do you think that there's any angle that they could start thinking about, or strategy, and when it comes to using live video to just even market themselves?
Yeah, totally. One thing I'm actually looking at doing is taking the podcast format and kind of transferring that to Facebook Live, and then using that as recording that in the open broadcasting software, and then being able to post that across social media, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on my blog, that sort of thing. And sort of using that multi-touch, multi-platform approach to sort of these webinar podcast type of things. And the really great thing about those is that it makes it really easy for people to jump in at a moment's notice. If somebody has a Facebook page, you can actually invite them to join you on Facebook. And I think the same is true of Periscope, if I remember correctly. And so for agencies, it could be a good way to do a podcast. It can be a good way to do webinars. A lot of times people are more likely to jump into a Facebook Live session than they are to join a webinar, just because there's a lower barrier of entry there. And true, you don't get the same kind of effect of capturing their user information for later. But if the webinar is run right, you can potentially even capture that information on the back end for the leads that are really qualified, because they didn't have to give you their information to get in, but you're asking for it on the back end. The people who give you their information are very, very interested. So you have a kind of a pro and con thing there. You're not going to get the emails or the contact information beforehand, but if you structure the program right, you can get it on the back end with a request and get the people who are really interested, so you don't waste your time.
That makes sense, because podcasts even are very difficult as far as lead generation, because people might find your podcast and listen to it, but it's very difficult to measure where they came from. Like we found with our podcast that we kind of find out just organically through talking to some people. They'll say, "Oh, I was a fan of the podcast, and then I decided to sign up for your product, Proposify." But of course, it's not like Google AdWords or PPC stuff where you can just directly track like where they came from by email address and track them all the way through the funnel. So I think if anybody podcasts, they're kind of used to that problem anyway. If anything, live video would make it easier to see at least who's liking and commenting on your stuff, right?
Exactly. And because it's recorded and you can save it, you can actually download that, edit it together, upload it to YouTube, to iTunes, Stitcher, whatever you use for your podcasting. And you can, like I said, use that multi-platform, multi-touch approach that really allows you to kind of be everywhere all at once without putting in like a ton of extra effort.
You got me thinking. I want to try this now.
Yeah. And
I'm
one thing that can help with the tracking who's listening to your podcast and who's interested, if you use some sort of tracking number, one of the things that my agency does is we actually provide tracking numbers to different companies to help them track their advertising. But there's a ton of different providers to do this sort of thing that do different things depending on your needs. But if you actually use a tracking number that goes to either a voicemail box or even directly to you guys, and you have that number inside your podcast or in any sort of media that you put out, you can actually track those results and see, okay, who's responding to the podcast, who's responding to my ads, who's doing all this sort of thing. And you can track this stuff in ways that you couldn't normally do without, like you said, getting into, Google ads, the pay-per-click type of stuff. And while you're not going to get sort of the same level of granular detail that you're going to get with, like Facebook or Google ads, or tracking pixels on your websites, you can still get a much better idea of, where your customers are coming from, where you are, where are they getting engaged, right? So you could even have like a user questions mailbox set up, something like that, and have a number that's designed to track those sorts of things and track the engagement that way.
Very cool. Now, just one thing I wanted to ask about was I noticed looking at 901 Music when I went to live coverage, it actually doing a lot of promotion to Twitter and Instagram. I don't even actually see anything for Facebook here. So how do you think that people can use live video using things that are kind of more short form content like Twitter and Instagram? Is there a difference there? Is there a different strategy you would employ using those platforms versus Facebook?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why Facebook isn't listed in our live coverage on our website, because in general, concerts have some interesting rules around copyright. There's some interesting interactions because of the music is technically copyrighted. And while we can shoot pictures of the artist, a lot of times video is much, much harder to get a hold of, because obviously people want you to come to the concerts and not just watch them on Facebook, right? Yeah. So when it comes to concerts, we don't do a whole lot of live video type stuff. It's more live photos. But the approach to Twitter versus Facebook for 901 Music has been more of a Facebook is really good for sort of getting the engagement on the back end with, we'll post our recaps, we'll post some of the photos from the show, that sort of thing. Whereas Twitter and Instagram are better for, while we're there at the show, because they're not as algorithmic. And whereas something on Facebook might show up in your feed, a day and a half after you post it, Twitter and Instagram are almost instant. Now Instagram is going to be becoming a little bit less like that, but it's still the algorithms on that are pretty light overall. And what we found is we still get a ton of engagement on Instagram and on Twitter posting live. And for us, the new algorithms on Instagram have actually been really good, because people engage with our content, and that the algorithms keep it alive longer. And so if you share really, really good content that is very immediately relevant to your readers or to your viewers, whatever that is for you, your customers, you can really you can use those algorithms to your advantage. And that's something that we found to be true, and we found to be true for some of our other clients as well.
That's awesome.
I got a question for you, actually, and this is out of curiosity, because I was in the music business for years in the U.S. The music mafia. Oh, sorry, I mean ASCAP and BMI. Do you have to do you have to deal with those guys?
No, because we don't actually we don't license the music or post the actual musician's music. Okay. If we were going to be broadcasting parts of it, we would probably have to deal with them at some point. But usually we're just dealing with the publicists. And if we wanted to shoot video, that'd be the biggest issue anyways, just getting them to let us bring video cameras into the venues.
They were strict. I used to have a music venue, and this big-ass guy, he's like 6'6", would come in. I'm from ASCAP. Pay me.
Yeah. His name was Tony Fish Eyes, right? Yeah. That's the name we pick for every goon, gangster.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm so glad we haven't had to deal with that.
That was just out of curiosity, actually.
I don't know why people would care, to be honest, because it's like if you post a little clip of someone playing, a song, it's not the same experience as being live. If anything, you're just exposing them to more listeners and more fans.
It doesn't matter. They used to come in and he'd stand there and watch a live show, and if any of my bands cover tunes, he'd be like, "Yep, see." Of course, a jukebox.
It's like how they say you're not allowed to sing "Happy Birthday" in public, or you owe royalties to somebody. So, somebody owns the copyright on the "Happy Birthday" song.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Fortunately, we haven't had to deal with any of that.
That's good. That's a good thing.
So, one thing I want to know, kind of before we wrap up, is how you, because obviously you have a very deep knowledge of this stuff with your experience with 901 Music of using live social media. It's almost, kind of a subgenre, a sub niche of social media marketing.
Yes.
And how are you helping your clients, or what types of clients that you're allowed to talk about are you helping kind of expose this kind of newer way of doing social media?
I mentioned that I worked with my dad, who's a weather guy at a TV station in Memphis, and their parent company has sort of over the last couple of years really wanted to transition to social media and a lot of online formats because, as you guys might know, television is sort of not doing so hot. And so a lot of these media organizations are transforming in order to survive. And in order to do that, they put these quotas for, you have to post so much, or you have to do certain things on social media or online. And that's good. But, one thing that a lot of times gets overlooked when, working with these sort of things is that the people who put these in place are, young guys who are, they live in the world of social media. And so for them, it's like, no brainer. Hey, let's post a bunch of stuff. But what gets overlooked a lot is that, a lot of these newscasters are people who don't live in that world of social media. Some of them don't even have social media accounts. My dad didn't have a Facebook account until they encouraged him to get one and set up a page. And so for him, making that transition has been a little bit more difficult, not because he's bad at social media or he just doesn't know quite how to use it. And he knows that he's got to post 3 times a day on Facebook or whatever their quota is. But what's just as important as posting 3 times a day is what you post 3 times a day. It's, what kinds of content are you posting? Not just are you posting a certain number of times, right? Mm-hmm. And so while the quotas are very well intentioned, a lot of times they can have the unintended consequence of sort of frustrating the people that they're designed to help. And so for us, Facebook Live has been really, really good for him because he's been able to kind of give this behind the scenes look at what goes on at the station. What does a control room look like? What happens during the broadcast? Are the anchors making jokes with each other in between the broadcast while the commercials are going? What's going on? And people really love to see that sort of thing. And he's had a lot of success with it. And it's a really, really good way for him to transition or to help the station transition from being a broadcast first medium to being sort of a multi-platform medium. And I'm also I just started work with a radio station that they're kind of doing the same thing. They've got an awesome setup. They're doing some amazing content on radio. They're doing talk radio, and they're just killing it. They're one of the most successful radio stations I've ever come across. And, they have the mindset that, radio is suffering from a lot of the same problems as television. Talk radio, not as much as other types, but still, it's radio. People aren't listening to radio as much as they are, as much as they're online. And so for them, they realize that they have kind of the Apple approach of, somebody's going to eat this market share, right? Someone's going to eat us. It might as well be us. We might as well cannibalize ourselves in order to remain relevant, remain successful, and really push the limits and push the envelope on, the ways that we're getting content to people. And it's been really, really cool just talking to them already. And right now we're kind of in the discovery process, but they have this mindset of, we're going to adapt to whatever the new stuff is and learn how to use it really effectively. And so for a lot of agencies, the way that this is relevant is a lot of the clients that they may be working with, whether they're corporate clients, whether they're mom and pop shops, a lot of these people, they don't they understand the importance of social media. They understand the importance of being online, and some of them may be really, really tech savvy. Some of them may already get it. But a lot of times, the biggest challenge is not so much, convincing them that they need it or showing them that this is going to be valuable to them, because they get that. But it's really just making it easy and accessible for them to use, and giving them techniques that they can utilize to really leverage the attention that's available on social media. And so that's kind of our job as, marketing agencies, is just to really make all of that stuff accessible to our customers,
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Well, Tim, thank you so much for sharing your insight into all this. And if people want to learn more, if they want to learn more from you when it comes to social media marketing, especially live stuff, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. The best, if you want to see what we're doing in action on 901 Music, the best place to go is either our Instagram account or our Twitter account. On both platforms, it's at 901 Music. And if you're interested in, talking with me more about, what we're doing with the agency, feel free to reach out with me. Reach out to me. My website is www.socialimagecrafting.com. Or you can reach me on Twitter at Tim Simpson.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Agencies Drinking Beer. If you enjoyed it, we'd appreciate it if you rate and or review us on the iTunes Store. If you have a story or lesson to share with other agency owners and managers from around the world, hit us up. Just email Kyle or Kevin at proposify.biz. And also, if you write business proposals and you want to make that process a whole lot easier and more streamlined, check out proposify.biz and sign up for a free 30-day trial. Cheers!